Will there be a $2,000 fourth stimulus check from the hundreds of billions of dollars that are still available that can be spent on virtually anything? That's what we want to discuss in this video, so let's get into this right away. But if you haven't done so yet, or if you happen to be new here, make sure to hit the subscribe button right down below the video so I can keep you updated each and every day with all of this latest information that is being released and changing very, very rapidly. My commitment to you and this community as a whole is to be here with all those latest updates as they're being released, as well as to help you out in any way that I possibly can throughout this incredibly confusing and difficult time as your one and only daily advocate. So again, thank you so much for joining me. Hit that subscribe button right down below the video if you haven't done so, and let's get into this right away. Alright, so did you realize since early 2020, Congress has approved over $5 trillion in stimulus packages that actually contain stimulus checks? Not only that, between all of the packages, even those that did not contain stimulus checks, Congress has approved over $7 trillion of stimulus since early 2020. That's a lot of money. Well, check it out. Between those three packages that actually did contain stimulus checks, about $5 trillion in spending. Of that $5 trillion, only about $4.5 trillion of that money has actually been allocated. That means that there is roughly $500 billion still on the books right now that has not been spent or allocated. It's literally just sitting there waiting for somebody to come by with a great idea and for them to spend it on some purpose. Well, this all makes us wonder, will there be a fourth stimulus check in the amount of $2,000? Now, let me give you some more stats behind all of this information. Now, again, this $500 billion and all of this allocation of the $5 trillion and all of that, this is according to the latest tallies that I have just found. So, according to this $500 billion that we're still finding on the books and still available, they can literally be spent on anything. They can virtually spend this money on anything that they want. Anything that anybody in Congress comes up with and they decide, oh, that's a great idea, let's pull this money out and spend it. There's not necessarily any rules wrapped around this. It can pretty much be allocated for anything. However, let me give you some information behind how much money has already been spent on stimulus checks and what all these numbers are actually telling us in regards to an additional stimulus check. So since early 2020, remember, we've gotten 3 stimulus checks so far, $1,200, $600, and $1,400, a total of $3,200, and across all Americans who received these checks, it was about $844 billion. So a little over $100 billion shy of $1 trillion in the form of stimulus checks. Again, it's a lot of money. It's about 1/5, it's a little less than that, a 1/5 of the size of all the stimulus approved for these 3 stimulus packages that have gone out in the form of relief for the American people. All right, so that brings us back full circle to wonder, what about this $500 billion? What is Congress really doing with it, and are they going to issue an additional stimulus check? Let's look at some other stats. Here's what we found through all the reports and the surveys and everything that we've discovered over the last few months here. As of right now, there's roughly 50 million people in the United States who really, really need a $2,000 stimulus check, including low-income, fixed-income Americans, including those people receiving Social Security, SSDI, SSI, VA, RRB, low-income, no-income, pretty much all of these people, as well as anybody else who may fall into the thresholds of under about $40,000 of income. Now, $40,000 is always the line in the sand. Now, not every single time, I shouldn't say always, but for the vast majority of the times when we look at any of these reports, a lot of the times when they determine low income, they're usually looking at about $40,000. Now, sometimes it does go up to about 50, maybe 52, maybe a little bit more, but generally it's about $40,000 of annual income. Now, we're also finding that there's about 50 million people in the United States right now that need a stimulus check and that fall within the categories of low income. Well, let's run some math on this just to better understand what is this actually going to cost if they actually did this. Now, one other quick side note. Remember the stimulus package from December of last year? When they were talking about it, they were right down to it in the heat of the moment. They were discussing this stimulus check and how much they actually wanted it to be. Do you remember some of the negotiations? Well, I'll tell you, because I've been watching this stuff very, very closely since the very start of this back in early 2020, and I can tell you exactly what happened. There were some proposals back in the day, like as in a year ago, in December of last year, in 2020, when they were actually coming out saying we want to narrow the stimulus check and only send it to those people earning under $40,000. Do you remember that? Well, then we had people like Bernie Sanders come out and said, oh no, we're not going to narrow it down to 40,000. We're going to bring it back up to what it was supposed to be, $75,000 for an individual or $150,000 as a married couple. And that's what they ended up doing. But some of the negotiations were actually calling on $40,000 of income or less to receive the stimulus check. So that was a real conversation that went down in the Senate last year in December in 2020. So with that being said, we better need to understand what would this actually cost? Okay, so let's run some simple math here just to better understand all this. They have $500 billion sitting there that is doing nothing, waiting to be spent. I keep saying, send it over to us. We know how to spend it. Seriously, if you're looking for a way to spend it, we know how to do it. Send it to us and all of us will live happily ever after, right? I think all of us would be very happy. All right, so we can split it up, however many people are here, we can just divide it all out and we'd be cool, right? All right, but anyway, so here's what we're doing. 50 million people multiplied by $2,000 is what? $100 billion. That means out of the $500 billion that they have sitting there doing nothing, they could peel off 1/5 of that, $100 billion, and send it out in the form of a $2,000 stimulus check, which would not need to be approved necessarily for more spending through Congress. They'd basically just take money that's already sitting there. It's already been appropriated. It just needs to be pretty much given a place to go. Well, that would be the people's bank accounts, right? So about 50 million people getting $2,000 would be $100 billion. Again, a small fraction, 1/5 of the amount of money that is currently sitting there right now. And again, they haven't found a good purpose for this money. It's been sitting there for months and months and months now, coming up on a year now, almost a year since the last stimulus package was even passed. Well, I should say the last stimulus package that was passed with a stimulus check within it. Therefore, the money's been sitting there for a very long time, and it continues to pile up, but they're not really taking anything out of it. And now again, these figures that I'm giving you are based on the latest tallies that I just came across and that I found. So, once again, this builds a really good case for Congress not needing to approve any additional spending. It would not add to the national debt because it's already been approved. The money in the form of basically when they look at the money and all these stimulus packages, in the eyes of everything going on right now, this money has already been spent. It just hasn't found a home yet, quite yet. However, like I've been saying, we know the home where it should be going, right? Our homes, all of our homes, call it our bank accounts, our direct express cards, our pockets, whatever you want to call it. But basically, our homes is the place that this should be going. So, at the end of the day, can you see how this would be so incredibly easy for Congress to do? The money's sitting there. Literally, it could take one page, not even a full page, probably a half a page worth of legislation to write it up and to get it out the door. Signed through, passed through the House, passed through the Senate, signed by the president, and they could have this thing done in a record amount of time. Now, here's what's interesting. Late last year as well, if you remember, in December of last year, they wrote up a stand-alone bill at that time. It was called the Cash Act. If you want to look it up, feel free to look it up. It was something that passed through the House last year, and it didn't really go anywhere. Now, this is the bill, this is a standalone bill that was actually written up last year to increase the stimulus checks from $600 up to $2,000. Do you remember all that drama? Yeah, it all happened. We all watched it play out. I reported on that very closely right here on the channel, and we watched the whole thing play out pretty much in real time, and it never actually got picked up. The stimulus check stayed at $600, but ultimately, my point is, they wrote up a standalone bill called the Cash Act last year in December to raise the stimulus checks to $2,000. That's all that they would have to do with this money right here. The money's already there. It's sitting there waiting to go out the door. It's waiting for a place to go, and it's just hanging out, right? So it'd be so incredibly easy for Congress to do this. It would take not much effort on their part to write up a standalone bill and to get all of this money out the door. Just a small fraction. We're not even asking for all the $500 billion. We're only asking for $100 billion of that. which realistically in the whole percentages of the stimulus package that they're currently working on right now, it is a very, very small percentage of the total package. It's about 5% of the total package that they're currently working on right now. So as you can see, it's not that much, right? It's a drop in the bucket, which is why I have written up this letter. If you caught this video a couple weeks ago, I wrote up this letter, my latest letter that I have written up, and I sent it over to Congress in the form of emails. I sent it directly to a bunch of people throughout Congress. But basically in this letter that I wrote up, I basically called on Congress, hey, let's get a stimulus check out the door until we can get a long-term solution put in place. Huge surprise, I didn't get any responses from my emails. So guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to send it out again. Why not? There's no rule, there's no law that says I can't send it out again. So why not send it out again? Maybe it went to their junk folder. I don't really know. Maybe they saw it and maybe they just decided to not respond. Either way, all that I know is I will be sending it out once again. But in this letter, I simply called on them. It's really short and sweet. You can see it right there. It's not that long at all. I basically wrote up in this letter calling on them, it is time to act. It is time. Low-income individuals need a stimulus check immediately. We need a long-term solution, but between now and then, we need to infuse the people's infuse the people's bank accounts with some cash, especially the lowest income and all of those fixed income beneficiaries that I've been talking about in pretty much all my videos, and I alluded to the list earlier, Social Security, you know the whole list. So it's very interesting as we look into all these numbers, the trillions of dollars of stimulus that have already been approved in the last, call it 20 months or so, since early 2020, right? It's interesting to see trillions and trillions of dollars of stimulus. They have hundreds of billions of dollars still sitting there. And yet, Americans are struggling so much. Some sections of Americans are still struggling so much right now, but yet they haven't done anything as far as taking action to help out those struggling Americans. It just seems weird to me. I don't know how else to say it. It just seems weird. I think it probably seems equally as weird to probably all of you as well, that now that we see these tallies, looking at hundreds of billions of dollars, $500 billion sitting there on the books with nothing to do, and we have a place for it. So it seems to me that this just means we should probably stay on Congress as much as we possibly can through issuing letters like this one, making phone calls, sending emails, sending letters in the mail, whatever we decided to do, anything that we can to get out to Congress and remind them that these stimulus checks are so incredibly essential right now. But here's what's interesting. With everything that we've been seeing going on lately, I've been seeing some pushes, more momentum, more traction, more attention for stimulus checks. In fact, it's kind of interesting how, with the result of everything going on right now, it's kind of interesting how a lot of people keep pointing back toward stimulus checks. Have you noticed that in some of my videos lately? We've been seeing this because this is what I'm finding in the information, and as I do my research each and every day, I'm starting to find that people keep pointing back at stimulus checks saying, hey, remember those things? Remember those things from the past? A quick cash infusion into bank accounts certainly helps out the people a lot right now, right? So we've all known that these stimulus checks have been, I was going to say life-changing. Are they really life-changing? Well, I don't know if they're really life-changing, but they certainly have been helpful, right? At the time, when you get a cash infusion, it can be life-changing for a day or two until you take all that money and spend it on things to get caught up or maybe get back to even or something. So it can certainly be life-changing for maybe, a few hours, a day, or two, maybe a week or so until all the money is spent up. But regardless, however long it's been life-changing for, it can certainly do a lot for low-income people. So can you see how we have a pretty good case here? They have $500 billion on the books. It would only cost $100 billion to send out 50 million people a $2,000 check. Does it all make sense to you, or is it just me? Because to me, this makes perfect sense. To me, I could draw a perfect picture and send it off to Congress to show them exactly what to do. No words, just write it up in a picture, right? Bank account, $500 billion. Peel off 100, split it up into $2,000 payments across 50 million people, send it out the door immediately. I could draw a picture of that, right? Super easy to understand. So it just seems very interesting what is going on with everything right now. And it just seems very, very obvious what needs to be done. But again, is this a promise that something's going to happen? No. Is it a promise saying that nothing will happen? No. It simply just means that we have all this money sitting there and that we need to get something done with it, and this would be the fastest, easiest way to get money out the door into the bank accounts of millions of people right now who need that money so badly. Anyway, I was doing more research on this and I thought, wow, when I came across these numbers of $500 billion sitting there, I thought, this is unbelievable. We've got to share this with everybody because we got to do something with this money. Even if we don't spend all 500 billion of it, just a little bit of it would even be really, it would make a huge difference for millions of people. So anyway, again, I wanted to come back, give you another rant, because I just find it to be so weird that Congress hasn't done something yet when we know what the solution is, but yet it seems like they act like all is fine and dandy, and unfortunately that's not the case. So we'll continue doing everything we possibly can to get out to Congress and remind them that we do need this support right now. But again, thank you so much for watching this. I really do appreciate it. I'm doing my best to make some noise here, get some attention from Congress, to do whatever we can to remind them that there are people that are still struggling, even if the numbers that are being released show that Americans are doing great. Yeah, that's not really the case. That's the case for some people, but not everybody, and we need to get some relief out to those people who are still struggling so badly. Anyway, I hope this helps you out. Again, have a nice day. Hit that subscribe button down below if you haven't done so yet. I will continue to be here for you every single day as your one and only daily advocate. I truly want to make a difference here. I truly want to help out everybody in this community. I know, it's tough, seriously. It is tough. There's no other way to say it, but I'll continue doing what I can, and thank you so much for your support. Subscribe down below, share this video with your friends, family, and social media, and go back and check out some of the other nearly 2,000 videos right here on the channel. Enjoy. I'll catch you.